Existentialism has been celebrated in the modern Western world as a brave philosophy, one that dares to confront the absurdity of life and to wrest meaning from a silent universe. Yet when examined more deeply, it becomes clear that existentialism is not so much the fruit of profound realization as it is the product of informational malnutrition, coupled with an excessive reliance on empiricism. It arises when the human mind is deprived of holistic knowledge traditions that nourish higher thought, and when reality is interpreted only through the narrow lens of empirical observation. The result is not a vision of truth, but a distorted worldview, one that reflects the intellectual weakness of a malnourished consciousness, rather than the strength of genuine insight. The notion of informational malnutrition points to the fact that the mind, much like the body, requires proper nourishment to grow, function, and flourish. Just as the body degenerates when fed only empty calories, the mind collapses into despair when it is fed with incomplete or incorrect frameworks. Existentialism thrives in cultures that have abandoned their spiritual roots, where the individual is taught that existence is nothing more than a brief accident in a cold universe, where all that can be known must be measured, weighed, and verified by the senses. By depriving the mind of metaphysical and spiritual nourishment, such a worldview creates the intellectual equivalent of starvation. The resulting despair is not proof of ultimate reality, but a symptom of malnourishment. Empiricism deepens this problem. The Western philosophical tradition, especially after the scientific revolution, elevated empirical observation to the highest status of knowledge. This was fruitful in advancing material sciences, but when extended into the realm of ultimate meaning, it becomes destructive. Empiricism, by its very nature, restricts truth to what can be observed by the senses and confirmed through external experiment. It dismisses inner experience, revelation, and higher states of consciousness as irrelevant or subjective. In doing so, it blinds itself to the very dimensions of existence that provide depth, coherence, and transcendence. Existentialism is born out of this blindness. Because empiricism cannot detect an eternal self or a higher purpose, it declares that such things do not exist. What results is not an unveiling of truth, but a premature foreclosure of possibilities, a declaration of absence made in ignorance. Indian philosophy offers a striking contrast. Far from confining knowledge to the empirical, it insists that the human being is equipped with multiple instruments of knowing, perception, inference, and testimony, but also direct realization through disciplined spiritual practice. The Upanishads do not deny impermanence, suffering, or uncertainty, but they provide a deeper framework within which these are understood. The transient is not meaningless, but part of a larger play grounded in the eternal. The self is not a lonely consciousness adrift in absurdity, but a spark of the infinite Brahman. Such knowledge does not merely feed the intellect, it nourishes the entire being, cultivating clarity, stability, and joy. Where existentialism circles endlessly around despair, Indian philosophy points toward liberation. To say that existentialism is the product of informational malnutrition and empiricism is therefore to reframe it as a pathology rather than an achievement. It is the condition of a culture that has cut itself off from nourishing traditions and confined its vision to the sensory and measurable. The resulting philosophy mirrors the weakness of its foundations. It is the expression of a malnourished mind, starved of spiritual knowledge and trapped in a narrow empiricist cage. Existential anxiety is not a mark of insight, but a preventable illness of thought. Seen in this light, existentialism loses its aura of courage. It is not the ultimate confrontation with reality, but the inevitable outcome of starvation. A starving body trembles, weakens, and collapses. A starving mind questions endlessly, despairs, and mistakes its own sickness for universal truth. By contrast, a nourished mind, grounded in holistic knowledge that integrates both empirical and spiritual dimensions, does not fall into despair, but rises into clarity. The cure for existentialism lies not in further circling within its limitations, but in restoring to the human being the fullness of knowledge, the wisdom that unites reason, experience, and transcendence. Only then does the mind recover from malnutrition, and only then can existence be seen not as absurd, but as a gateway to liberation.